You're closer to wealth than you think. This book proves it. Written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. What if wealth wasn't something you had to chase, but something you could unlock right now, starting with how you think? Picture a life where financial peace, freedom, and success aren't distant dreams, but realities you begin creating the moment you shift your mindset. This book is here to prove just that. You're closer to wealth than you think. So often, we tie wealth to hard numbers or external achievements. But true wealth begins long before money shows up in your account. It begins in the thoughts you entertain, the beliefs you hold, and the perspective you choose each day. As Zig Ziglar once said, riches are not from abundance of worldly goods, but from a contented mind. This book is not about gimmicks, get-rich-quick tricks, or financial jargon. It's about discovering the internal switch that turns possibility into prosperity. You'll learn how to see wealth differently, to think like someone who is already abundant, act with confidence, and attract opportunities aligned with your true worth. Each chapter will walk you through practical steps to reshape your relationship with money, rewire limiting beliefs, and begin showing up like the wealthy person you were meant to become. You don't have to wait for a lucky break. This is about taking control of your financial story from the inside out. Let's begin this journey toward the wealth that's already within your reach. Chapter 1: The Hidden Wealth Within. Wealth doesn't begin with numbers. It begins with awareness. You might think the gap between where you are and where you want to be is made up of money, opportunity, or privilege. But what if that gap is actually made of thought? What if the real divide between scarcity and abundance exists entirely in the way you think about wealth? Every day, you're surrounded by messages about what it takes to become wealthy. Work harder. Save more. Take bigger risks. But those messages miss something crucial. You move toward wealth not just by doing more, but by thinking differently. You become rich in your mind before you ever see it in your life. And once that shift happens internally, the external begins to change in powerful ways. Have you ever noticed how two people with the same income can live completely different financial realities? One is constantly stressed, anxious, and feeling behind. The other feels calm, resourceful, and empowered. The difference isn't in the paycheck, it's in perception. That perception drives their behavior, and that behavior ultimately shapes their outcomes. What you believe about money becomes the blueprint for how you attract, spend, save, and grow it. This chapter is about recognizing the power you already have. It's not about waiting for a raise or winning the lottery. It's about realizing that wealth starts with mindset, right now, right here, regardless of your current financial state. The thoughts you carry about money are already influencing your decisions, your habits, and the opportunities you notice or overlook. Think of your mind as a vault. Inside, it holds every belief you've absorbed about wealth, some empowering, others limiting. Many of those beliefs were planted without your permission. Maybe you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or we can't afford that. Over time, those ideas became invisible walls, quietly shaping your sense of what's possible. But what if those walls aren't real? What if you could unlock that vault and reprogram it with beliefs that serve your growth instead of block it? To begin, you have to become conscious of the story you've been telling yourself. Ask yourself, do I believe wealth is meant for me? Do I believe I can handle it, grow it, enjoy it? Or do I believe it's always just out of reach? The answers to those questions matter more than any financial strategy, because they form the foundation of everything that follows. When you believe you're not worthy of wealth, you subconsciously repel it. You undercharge, overspend, avoid growth, or sabotage progress. But when you begin to believe that wealth is your natural state, not just possible, but aligned with who you are, you start to think, act, and attract differently. That belief becomes magnetic. Shifting your wealth identity doesn't happen all at once. It begins with small, intentional thoughts. A decision to see money as a tool, not a threat. A willingness to believe that having more doesn't make you less humble or kind. A choice to say, I can grow into wealth, instead of, that's not for people like me. Each shift becomes a seed. And when nurtured, those seeds grow into habits, and those habits shape results. You are not starting from lack. You are starting from potential. The wealth you seek isn't somewhere far away, it's inside you, waiting to be activated. The path forward isn't about chasing more. It's about becoming more. Let this be your turning point. You're not learning how to get rich. You're remembering that wealth was always yours to claim. Chapter 2: Identifying Scarcity Thinking. Before you can build wealth, you have to understand what's been quietly tearing it down. It's not always debt or low income or bad luck. Often, the real culprit is a mindset shaped by scarcity. Scarcity thinking doesn't shout, it whispers. It shows up in small daily decisions, in quiet assumptions, in the background noise of your beliefs. And unless you shine a light on it, it will continue to run the show without your permission. Scarcity isn't just a lack of money. It's the feeling that there's never enough time, energy, opportunity, or worthiness. It's the belief that life is a game of limited resources, where someone else's gain is your loss. This mindset turns money into a source of stress, not a tool for growth. You find yourself constantly worrying, hoarding, hesitating, or overspending out of fear that the chance to thrive may never come again. You might not even realize you're operating from scarcity. That's what makes it so dangerous. It disguises itself as caution or practicality. It tells you to settle. It convinces you to pass on opportunities because you're not ready yet. It urges you to say no to investments in yourself because you can't afford to take that risk. But what it's really doing is reinforcing the belief that you'll never have enough, so you act accordingly. Take a moment to reflect. Do you feel tense when you check your bank account? Do you avoid financial conversations because they make you anxious or embarrassed? Do you often tell yourself, "I can't afford that," without questioning if it's truly a financial limitation or a mental one? These are signs that scarcity thinking might be embedded deeper than you realize. Scarcity isn't just about what you think, it's about what you repeat. Thoughts like "I'll never get ahead," "I'm just bad with money," or "people like me don't get rich," become internal scripts. And the more you think them, the more they become your reality. Your mind starts to filter out anything that doesn't align with that narrative. You miss chances. You overlook options. You live inside the limits you've mentally accepted. This doesn't mean you've failed. It means you've been trained. Somewhere along the way, by parents, teachers, society, or experience, you absorbed the idea that wealth is for others, not for you. But what was learned can be unlearned. And that begins with awareness. Start paying attention to how you talk about money, not just with others, but with yourself. Catch the language of limitation. Notice when you assume things are out of reach before you've even explored them. Begin replacing those assumptions with questions. What would it take to afford this? Or how might I grow into this? A small shift in language can create a massive shift in perspective. You must also understand that abundance and scarcity are both self-reinforcing. When you think abundantly, you notice opportunities, take aligned action, and build momentum. When you think with scarcity, you hesitate, delay, and reinforce the lack you fear. The more you repeat either pattern, the more it becomes your default. That's why changing your thoughts isn't a one-time event. It's a practice. This book is not asking you to ignore your current circumstances. It's asking you to stop letting them define your future. You may not have everything you want today, but that doesn't mean you never will. What matters is how you think while you grow. Scarcity thinking is not who you are, it's just a pattern you've learned. And any pattern can be rewritten. The first step is seeing it for what it is. The second is choosing something better. Your next level of wealth depends on it. Chapter 3: Rewriting Your Money Identity. Wealth isn't just what you earn, it's who you believe you are. Your money identity is the internal blueprint that quietly shapes how you interact with finances. It influences what you believe you deserve, how much you allow yourself to receive, and how you respond when opportunities arise. Without realizing it, you live according to this identity every day. It determines whether you grow or stay stuck. Most people never question theirs. They assume they're just bad with money or not meant to be wealthy or doing the best they can. But these aren't facts, they're stories. Stories picked up from childhood, culture, failure, or fear. Over time, they become self-fulfilling. You act out what you expect. You play small where you could expand. You limit what you try because deep down you've already decided how the story ends. This identity isn't written in stone. It's flexible. But it only changes when you get curious about it. Start by asking yourself who you've been when it comes to money. Have you seen yourself as someone who always struggles, always scrapes by, or always makes just enough? Have you believed that others can be wealthy, but you can't? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. You can't change what you refuse to confront. Once you uncover your current money identity, the next step is to question its truth. Is it based on actual limitations, or repeated assumptions? Are you still living by beliefs that were passed down by people who were doing the best they could, but who may have never healed their own money wounds? Many of your current patterns come from ideas that were never yours to begin with. Now imagine creating a new money identity, one that reflects your potential, not your past. What if you began to see yourself as capable of managing wealth, growing it, and using it for good? What if you chose to believe that money is a tool you are meant to master, not fear? This isn't about pretending you're rich. It's about shifting how you show up to the idea of being wealthy. It's about expanding what you believe is possible. A new identity starts with a new decision. Instead of saying, "I'm not good with money," say, "I'm learning to handle money with clarity." Instead of "I can't afford that," say, "I'm figuring out how to make that possible." These aren't empty affirmations. They're intentional rewrites of limiting scripts. And with repetition, they begin to reshape the way you think, feel, and act. Behavior follows identity. If you see yourself as someone who's always behind, you'll behave accordingly. But when you start to see yourself as a builder of wealth, your actions begin to align. You'll budget with purpose, invest with confidence, and seek opportunities with courage. You'll stop tolerating lack, not out of desperation, but out of alignment with your new standard. This isn't about arrogance or greed. It's about claiming a future that fits your growth. When you operate from a higher money identity, you don't just chase wealth, you become the kind of person who naturally attracts it. The version of you who earns more, saves more, and creates more already exists. You just have to step into that version and stay there long enough for results to catch up. You've been living by a script that was handed to you. Now it's time to write your own. Let your money identity reflect your power, not your past. Wealth responds to who you believe you are. So believe wisely. The person you're becoming has already started to show up. Keep going. Chapter 4. Your beliefs are earning for you. Every financial decision you make is rooted in belief. Before the spending, before the saving, before the investing, there is a thought. That thought is often so familiar you don't even notice it. It hides in the background, quietly influencing every action you take with money. But make no mistake, your beliefs are working behind the scenes, building your financial reality in real time. What you believe about money, what it means, what it requires, what it says about you, shapes how you relate to it. If you believe money is hard to get, you'll operate from fear and scarcity. If you believe wealth is only for a lucky few, you'll unconsciously pull back whenever you get close to success. But if you believe money flows where there's value, growth, and clarity, then you'll show up with a different level of intention. Belief doesn't just influence outcomes, it steers your entire financial behavior. It's easy to overlook how deeply your beliefs are wired. You might think you're making rational decisions, when in reality, you're following patterns that were set years ago. Maybe you grew up watching your parents fight over bills, or you were taught that talking about money was rude, or you learned that being wealthy made you a target. Those early experiences get locked into your subconscious. And without realizing it, they become the lens through which you view every financial possibility. The danger of unchecked belief is that it can trap you in cycles. You avoid investing because you believe it's too risky. You overspend because you believe money brings security. You undercharge for your work because you believe earning more might make others uncomfortable. The behavior seems random, but it's not. It's aligned with the story you've internalized, and that story is what needs to change. Beliefs don't shift just because you want them to. They shift because you begin to examine them. You start to question the rules you've been living by. Ask yourself, where did this belief come from? Is it universally true, Or is it something I've been carrying without proof? Does this belief serve the life I'm trying to create, or does it keep me stuck in a reality I've outgrown? These questions aren't meant to create shame, they're meant to open space. You don't need to throw out every belief you have about money. But you do need to consciously choose which ones you'll keep. Keep the ones that empower you. Let go of the ones that keep you afraid, small, or stagnant. Beliefs are not fixed, they are decisions you keep making. And you're allowed to make new ones. Start with one belief. Just one. Find a belief that's been limiting you and reframe it. For example, if you've been thinking, "I'll never get ahead," shift it to, "I'm learning how to grow my money and I'm making progress." It might feel unnatural at first, even uncomfortable. That's okay. New beliefs often do. But keep practicing. The goal is not to force yourself into blind positivity. The goal is to teach your mind to see new possibilities. Over time, your beliefs will either build your future or barricade it. The choice is yours. But you have to become aware of what you've been letting operate unchecked. Money doesn't just respond to effort. It responds to expectation. It follows belief. You don't need to have everything figured out. You just need to start telling a better story, one that aligns with where you're going, not where you've been. The version of you who believes in growth, worth, and financial possibility is already within reach. And that belief is the beginning of everything. Chapter 5. Wealth starts with the way you see. Before anything changes in your bank account, it has to change in your vision. Not the kind of vision measured by sight, but by perception, how you see the world, how you see money, and most importantly, how you see yourself. Too often, people try to change their financial reality without first adjusting the way they mentally approach it. But wealth always begins in the mind. Your perception of money affects how you interpret every financial situation. When you view money as scarce, every bill feels like a threat. Every unexpected expense becomes a crisis. But when you begin to see money as a tool, not a trap, everything starts to shift. You become less reactive, more creative. You stop panicking and start planning. It's not that challenges disappear, it's that you show up to them with new eyes. How you see yourself in relation to wealth matters even more. If you see yourself as someone who always struggles, then struggle becomes your identity. And you'll act in ways that reinforce it, even when better options are available. But if you start seeing yourself as someone capable of growth, someone who's learning, someone who can change, you open up new possibilities. That shift in vision may seem subtle, but it leads to completely different choices. Think of it like this: two people can face the exact same financial situation. One sees it as a dead end. The other sees it as a challenge to overcome. The difference isn't the math. It's the mindset. It's the inner language. It's the ability to see a path even when the path isn't obvious. You may have grown up surrounded by people who struggled with money. You may have seen financial hardship as normal. But normal doesn't have to mean permanent. You are allowed to upgrade your vision. You are allowed to imagine a life that looks different from the one you were handed. That isn't arrogance, it's ownership. Ownership of your choices, your direction, and your future. Sometimes the hardest part is giving yourself permission to want more. Not in a greedy or shallow way, but in a purposeful, aligned, expansive way. Wanting more wealth doesn't make you selfish. It makes you aware of your potential. It means you're done pretending that barely getting by is all you're worth. It means you're choosing to stop shrinking to fit the story of limitation you were given. But wanting more isn't enough. You have to begin seeing more. Seeing beyond the fear. Seeing beyond the past. Seeing the possibility that something better exists, and that it's available to you. When you expand your vision, you expand your options. You begin to notice opportunities you once ignored. You approach decisions with clarity instead of confusion. You stop settling for scraps and start reaching for substance. This doesn't mean you'll never feel doubt. It means you learn how to move forward anyway. Because your future isn't created in a perfect, fearless moment, it's created in small shifts, made consistently, in spite of fear. Those shifts begin in how you see the world and your place in it. You've been taught to focus on what's missing. Now it's time to focus on what's possible. What you look for, you find. What you believe, you build. Let this chapter mark the moment you choose a new lens. You are not here to repeat the patterns you've seen. You are here to break them, outgrow them, and lead yourself into something greater. It starts with seeing yourself as someone who is already becoming wealthy. Let your vision stretch. Let it surprise you. That vision will take you further than any paycheck ever could. Chapter 6. Your habits are a mirror of your mindset. Wealth isn't built in one decision, it's built in repetition. What you do consistently reveals what you believe deeply. That's why your habits are more than routines. They're reflections. They mirror your mindset, your identity, and your internal story about what's possible. If you want to change your financial life, you don't just need new information, you need new patterns. Most people try to fix money problems by focusing only on income or expenses. But beneath the surface, habits run the show. The way you check your bank account, the way you handle bills, the way you approach spending, all of it flows from the thoughts you've practiced the most. If you've spent years thinking money is hard, unpredictable, or fleeting, then your habits will unconsciously reinforce those ideas. You'll delay, avoid, overcompensate, or overcorrect. Not because you're undisciplined, but because your mind is wired to act out what it believes. It's not about being perfect. It's about being aware. Awareness lets you catch the automatic behaviors that are keeping you stuck. Maybe you overspend when you're stressed because spending gives you a sense of control. Maybe you avoid budgeting because it reminds you of lack. Maybe you refuse to look at your accounts until something breaks. These behaviors aren't random, they're patterns born from belief. To shift them, you don't need willpower alone. You need alignment. That starts by asking yourself, what kind of person would I be if I believed wealth was normal for me? Then act like that person, even before you feel like it. Would that person check their finances regularly? Would they invest in learning? Would they plan ahead instead of reacting in panic? These aren't massive changes. They're subtle shifts that, over time, lead to a radically different result. One of the most powerful truths about wealth is that it compounds, not just money, but habits too. A single daily habit, done with intention, can rewire your relationship with money. It could be journaling your thoughts around spending. It could be setting a weekly money check-in. It could be tracking your wins instead of only focusing on your gaps. None of this is glamorous. But it works. Because when your habits align with your beliefs, your results become inevitable. You've probably been told that habits are about discipline. But more often, they're about identity. You keep the habits that match the person you believe yourself to be. That's why most people fall back into old routines after trying something new. They haven't updated the internal image. So even when the habit changes, the story doesn't, and eventually, the story wins. That's why transformation that lasts must come from the inside out. You don't need to overhaul your entire life in one day. You just need to choose one habit that reflects the person you're becoming. Start small. Start consistent. Start honest. Let your new behavior affirm your new identity. Over time, the small choices you make will add up to a new normal. One that reflects your vision, not your fear. Wealthy people don't always have better luck. They often just have better habits, habits that are aligned with growth, clarity, and confidence. And those habits weren't born overnight. They were chosen, practiced, and protected until they became second nature. Your future is not built by the big things you do once. It's built by the small things you do daily. Choose habits that honor where you're going. Let them be the evidence of your belief. Your transformation isn't in some distant place. It's happening every time you choose alignment over autopilot. Keep choosing it. Chapter 7. Releasing Financial Guilt and Shame. Money carries emotion. Sometimes it brings pride or excitement. Other times, it brings guilt, shame, or regret. These emotions may not show up on a spreadsheet, but they influence every line of it. If you've ever felt embarrassed about your financial choices, ashamed of your past, or guilty for wanting more, you're not alone. But holding on to that weight keeps you stuck in patterns that no longer serve you. Financial guilt often shows up when we believe we've made mistakes we can't recover from. Maybe you overspent, went into debt, missed an opportunity, or ignored an important decision. Shame appears when you believe those mistakes define you. Instead of seeing them as choices, you see them as proof of who you are, or worse, what you'll always be. But you are not your past. You are the one who chooses what happens next. If you're constantly replaying old financial missteps, your mind stays anchored to the past. And when your mind is stuck, your progress stalls. You may hesitate to try new things because you're afraid of repeating past failures. Or you may sabotage your own growth because you don't believe you deserve a clean slate. This invisible weight keeps you from fully stepping into the version of yourself that's capable, clear, and committed. Forgiveness is not a financial strategy, but it is a financial necessity. Without it, you carry mental clutter into every new opportunity. You doubt your ability to handle success because you haven't released the belief that you're irresponsible or undeserving. But growth requires space. You can't receive what you're still afraid to hold. And you can't move forward while punishing yourself for where you've been. Start by naming what you're holding on to. Be honest. Are there purchases you still regret? Are there seasons of financial chaos you still feel embarrassed by? Are there people you feel you've let down, or who made you feel less than for struggling? Bring it to the surface. Because what you don't name, you can't change. Now remind yourself that you did the best you could with what you knew then. That doesn't excuse everything. But it creates room for compassion. Growth doesn't come from shame, it comes from clarity. You can learn from a mistake without living in it. You can take responsibility without letting it define your future. It's also important to recognize where guilt has kept you small. Sometimes people feel bad about wanting more because they were raised to believe wealth was selfish or dangerous. Or they feel guilty for succeeding when others around them are struggling. But dimming your potential doesn't help anyone. Hiding your gifts doesn't heal others. Expanding into abundance allows you to give, lead, and support from a place of strength. Releasing guilt is not a one-time act. It's a practice. You'll be tempted to revisit old wounds. You'll have moments where shame creeps back in. But every time you choose compassion over criticism, you take back your power. You remind yourself that you are not broken, you are rebuilding. Wealth does not require perfection. It requires permission. Permission to be human. Permission to learn. Permission to grow beyond your old patterns. You are not the same person who made those past choices. You've evolved. And that evolution deserves to be acknowledged. If you want to move forward, you have to stop punishing yourself for who you used to be. Forgive the version of you that didn't know better. Thank them for surviving. And then step fully into the version of you who knows that wealth is possible, not because you've done everything right, but because you're finally willing to believe it's within reach. Chapter 8: Building a Relationship with Money. Most people don't have a money problem, they have a relationship problem with money. And like any relationship, this one is shaped by communication, trust, emotion, and attention. If your connection with money feels tense, distant, or reactive, it's likely because the relationship hasn't been nurtured. You cannot create long-term wealth from a place of avoidance or resentment. You have to learn to relate to money with curiosity, clarity, and care. Imagine money as a partner. If you ignored it, criticized it, feared it, or pushed it away, that relationship wouldn't thrive. The same is true here. Many people only think about money when there's a crisis. They don't check in. They don't ask questions. They don't understand how it works or what it needs. Then they wonder why it never seems to stick around. But money responds to attention. It grows in the presence of intention. Your current relationship with money was likely inherited. You may have learned to view money as stressful, secretive, unpredictable, or even dangerous. You may have absorbed ideas that wealth creates problems or that financial focus makes you greedy. These stories shape how you show up. If you see money as an enemy, you'll resist engaging with it. If you see it as unreliable, you'll struggle to feel safe with it. But what if you chose to see money as neutral, a resource that reflects how you treat it? To change this dynamic, you must begin showing up differently. Start with honesty. Look at your habits without judgment. How often do you avoid checking your balances? How often do you make emotional decisions around spending? How often do you blame money for problems rooted in fear or shame? These questions aren't meant to make you feel bad, they're meant to help you reconnect. Connection begins with communication. Create time to talk to money. Review your spending. Understand your income. Set intentions for where it goes and why. Don't wait for everything to be perfect, engage now. The more familiar you become with your financial world, the more confident and grounded you'll feel. Clarity creates peace. Peace creates power. Then listen. Your relationship with money has been trying to speak to you. Through patterns. Through emotions. Through missed opportunities and repeated lessons. It's asking you to look deeper. To slow down. To make decisions from awareness, not fear. When you listen without reacting, you learn. And when you learn, you grow. Building trust is part of the process. If you've made mistakes before, you may feel like money can't be trusted, or worse, that you can't be trusted with it. But trust is built through action. Small, consistent decisions made with care. A choice to save when you used to spend. A moment of pause before a purchase. A shift from neglect to responsibility. These acts reinforce the message: I am capable. I am trustworthy. I am ready. Eventually, the relationship softens. You stop seeing money as a threat or a burden. You start seeing it as a partner in your growth. A tool that supports your vision. A resource you're allowed to understand and expand. And from that place, wealth begins to feel natural, not forced. It becomes a reflection of who you are becoming. The relationship you build with money will influence every goal, every investment, every risk, and every reward. It's not about having it all figured out. It's about being willing to show up, over and over, with presence and intention. That is how trust is built. That is how power is reclaimed. Your money doesn't need to fear you. And you don't need to fear it. You can start fresh. Right now. A new relationship begins the moment you decide to stop avoiding and start engaging with a vision for more. Chapter 9: The Energy of Earning. Earning is more than a transaction. It's an energy exchange. Whether you're receiving a paycheck, sending an invoice, or creating value through your work, there's energy behind it, beliefs, emotions, and expectations that shape what you allow in and what you push away. If you've ever felt stuck at a certain income level, it's not always because of skill or effort. Sometimes it's because of what you believe you're allowed to earn. Many people think earning more starts with doing more. But often, the first step is expanding what you believe is possible. You can only attract what you're willing to receive. And if you secretly believe you're not worth more, you'll find a way to block it. You'll undercharge, overwork, or hesitate to pursue bigger opportunities. It's not self-sabotage, it's self-protection. Your mind is wired to keep you within the limits of your comfort zone, even if that zone no longer serves you. You've likely been taught to link earning with struggle. That more money means more hours, more stress, or more sacrifice. But what if that's not the only way? What if you could earn from alignment, from creativity, from service, from skill, not just effort alone? When you shift your energy around earning, you start to see money as a reflection of the value you bring, not just the time you trade. That shift starts with awareness. Ask yourself how you feel when you think about earning more. Do you feel excitement, or do you feel tension? Do you feel like you deserve it, or like you need to prove it? These emotions are clues. They show you where your earning energy is open and where it's blocked. The goal isn't to fix everything overnight. It's to become conscious of the patterns shaping your financial ceiling. One of the most common blocks to earning is the belief that wanting more makes you ungrateful. That if you already have enough, you shouldn't want anything beyond that. But gratitude and growth can coexist. You can honor what you have and still reach for more. Wanting to expand isn't greed, it's growth. It means you recognize your potential. It means you're willing to use your gifts fully instead of holding them back out of guilt or fear. To change your earning energy, you also have to change how you value yourself. That means honoring your time, your voice, your experience. It means saying no to opportunities that underpay or undervalue. It means standing tall in the face of discomfort when you ask for what you're worth. These aren't easy shifts, but they're necessary. Because money flows where confidence lives. You don't have to be the loudest in the room. But you do have to believe in what you offer. That belief is magnetic. People feel it. Opportunities align with it. Your income rises to meet it. You begin attracting projects, partnerships, and paths that reflect your growth. And slowly, your outer world adjusts to match your inner shift. Earning more isn't about chasing money. It's about embodying abundance. It's about stepping into the version of you who knows they are worthy of receiving. That version doesn't wait for permission. They don't shrink to fit old roles. They expand. They trust. They choose. The energy of earning is not about hustle alone. It's about alignment. When you're aligned, work feels meaningful. Results feel earned. And wealth feels natural. That's not wishful thinking, it's what happens when you decide that your value is no longer up for debate. Your next level of income is not just waiting for a strategy. It's waiting for a shift. That shift starts in you. And it begins the moment you believe you are ready for more. Chapter 10: Aligning Action with Intention. Wealth isn't created just by wishing for more. It's built by aligning your actions with your intentions. What you believe is important, but what you do is what brings it to life. Many people say they want abundance, but their daily behavior reflects fear, hesitation, or avoidance. That misalignment creates friction. And where there is friction, progress stalls. Intention without action is hope. Action without intention is hustle. But when you combine the two, you create momentum. Momentum that carries you beyond doubt, beyond delay, and into results. Your intentions are the blueprint. Your actions are the builders. One without the other leaves your vision incomplete. Most people underestimate how much power lives in the small decisions. It's not just about making big leaps, it's about making consistent choices that reflect who you want to become. If you say you want to grow your savings but continue to spend reactively, your action and intention are at odds. If you say you want to be debt-free but never look at your numbers, the gap widens. But when you begin to take small steps that reflect your goals, even imperfect ones, everything starts to change. It starts with clarity. Ask yourself what you truly want, and why. Do you want financial peace, freedom, impact, legacy? Let that clarity shape your next move. Then ask, what does someone who already lives that way do each day? How do they show up to their money, their work, their habits? Begin matching your actions to that version of you, even if it feels unfamiliar. You don't need to wait for motivation. You need structure. Create systems that make alignment easier. Set routines that support your goals. Automate what you can. Simplify what feels overwhelming. Success isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing the right things consistently. Even one aligned action can move the needle if done with intention. You may hit resistance. That's normal. Your brain is wired for comfort, and change feels like a threat, even when it's good. You'll be tempted to delay, distract, or overthink. But that's where alignment matters most. When your intention is clear, you don't need to feel ready. You just need to take the next step. Action builds clarity. Clarity builds confidence. And confidence builds wealth. It's also important to track your progress, not just financially, but emotionally and behaviorally. Notice when you make better decisions. Celebrate when you resist old patterns. Document your wins, no matter how small. These reflections reinforce your growth. They remind you that change is happening, even when it feels slow. Aligned action doesn't mean doing more. It means doing what matters. You don't have to chase every opportunity. You just have to pursue the ones that match your vision. You don't have to be busy to be productive. You just have to be intentional. That's where real wealth begins, not in constant motion, but in focused movement. If you've struggled with follow-through in the past, don't let that story hold you hostage. Today is new. Alignment can begin now. Choose one thing that moves you closer to the version of yourself who lives with clarity and ease around money. Do it fully. Do it without waiting for everything else to be perfect. The wealth you're building isn't just about numbers. It's about integrity. The integrity between what you say you want and how you choose to live. That alignment is the foundation. Without it, even the best financial strategies will fall flat. But with it, your goals become more than ideas, they become reality. You are not stuck. You are just one aligned decision away from traction. And once you move with purpose, the path ahead becomes clearer. Keep choosing action that honors your intention. That's how wealth begins to take root. Chapter 11. Becoming a match for the life you want. Wealth is not something you chase, it's something you align with. You don't attract abundance by reaching harder. You attract it by becoming the kind of person who naturally lives in that reality. That begins with identity. Not just what you do, but who you believe yourself to be. The more your thoughts, behaviors, and beliefs align with wealth, the less effort it takes to receive it. It becomes normal, expected, and familiar. Too often, people treat wealth like a prize that must be earned through struggle. They believe it's something reserved for later, for when they're finally good enough, smart enough, or prepared enough. But that mindset keeps it at a distance. It tells your brain to delay. It reinforces the idea that you must become someone entirely different before you can experience abundance. But real transformation doesn't come from waiting. It comes from deciding that who you are becoming starts now. Ask yourself, what would it look like to be a match for the life I desire? How would I think, speak, act, and respond? What would I stop tolerating? What would I start doing consistently? These questions bring clarity. Because the truth is, wealth isn't just about receiving, it's about allowing. Allowing yourself to grow. Allowing yourself to show up fully. Allowing yourself to stop hiding behind excuses that feel safe but keep you small. Becoming a match for wealth means choosing alignment over comfort. It means stretching into new behaviors, even when they feel unnatural. It means investing in yourself before the proof appears. It means holding standards that reflect the life you want, not the one you're trying to outgrow. That's not pretending. That's practicing. You don't become abundant by fixing all your flaws. You become abundant by seeing yourself differently. When you view yourself as capable, valuable, and trustworthy, your choices change. You spend with intention. You earn with confidence. You create from belief, not desperation. Your environment shifts because you've shifted. This isn't about perfection. It's about embodiment. Every day, you have an opportunity to reinforce your identity. You reinforce it with the habits you practice, the boundaries you hold, and the language you use. Words like I never get ahead or I can't afford that may feel like facts, but they're declarations. And declarations shape identity. Speak in a way that matches who you are becoming, not just what you've experienced. Your environment matters too. Surround yourself with reminders of where you're going. That doesn't mean pretending you're somewhere you're not. It means living with intention. Clean your space. Review your goals. Keep your word to yourself. Make decisions from the version of you who leads with clarity. That version exists already, your job is to keep choosing it. It's easy to think that once you have the money, then you'll change. But it rarely works that way. Money only magnifies what's already there. That's why becoming the match comes first. The more grounded you are in who you're becoming, the more stable your growth becomes. You're not hoping for success, you're preparing for it. You're not chasing wealth, you're learning how to hold it. Everything in your life is responding to who you believe you are. That includes opportunities, relationships, and finances. So if you want something new, you must be willing to become someone new. Not from a place of shame, but from a place of ownership. Ownership says, I get to choose how I grow. I get to decide what I believe. I get to build a life that reflects my values, not my fear. You are not separate from the life you want. You are being shaped into it. Every step you've taken has brought you here. And every choice from here forward will define how fully you step in. Become the match. The life you want is already calling you. Take care and be well.